right. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever it is you are joining me from in the world. So the video is meant to focus on strategy from the perspective of someone who is growing his career. And when I say someone who is growing in career, there is a context. That context is the African context and the IT professionals context. The reason why I can share this is because I've spent about 18 years or 17 years working in information technology, some technical roles, some management roles. And I've worked in Africa all my life. And most importantly, I have worked mostly for Africans. So I used to support 33 countries across the continent. So my context is very clear. It's information technology. It is Africa. And if you find yourself in that context, you will find the things I'm about to share very, very useful. I'm happy for you to listen to me from any part of the world, right? But I just wanted to set that context clear so that the things I'm saying will make more meaning to you if you have an understanding of those contexts. I want to acknowledge whoever it is that made my outfit. It's called Wear Ghana. And the reason that's important is because part of what I do is to support small businesses in Africa that are producing things locally, right? Particularly consumer goods. I do that on one side. I call myself a strategy coach. That simply means that I apply strategy tools and techniques to help these small businesses grow. Now, the reason why I can do strategy coaching is because my day job, part of what I've done over the past 5 years thereabout, in my day job involves strategic thinking, involves helping people see the big picture, involves using some of these tools or conceptualizing the organization, right? In terms of diagrams, in terms of developing communication, PowerPoint presentations that help the big guys make their decisions. All right, so in my day job, I'm an enterprise architect. That can mean many things to many different organizations, right? It could mean simply doing drawings. It could mean providing input to strategy. It could mean helping develop the technology roadmap. It could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But there are frameworks that define the boundaries of what it means. Different organizations simply understand them differently. So there is a relationship between what I do and strategy, and I do a little bit of study outside the scope of my regular work so that I can support small businesses in the way I do. I don't have a very large audience. I don't have 10,000, 10 million followers, but I have a few people who are being impacted by the kind of work I do. And I trust that some of them are watching this. But today I'm going to be talking mostly about career. Forgive me if I look to the right once in a while. I have my notes here, right? And this talk is generally from a conversation or an article I had written on LinkedIn. If you're not subscribed to my LinkedIn newsletter, Work Thoughts, please go ahead and look for me, Kenneth Igiri. Right now you know my name, Kenneth Igiri. Look for my LinkedIn newsletter, Work Thoughts. There I share a lot of stuff about how my journey has progressed over the past 17, 18 years in the industry in my context. It's my story, my context, and I trust it to be useful to anyone who reads this. So I'm going to be focusing on one of those articles that I shared. I called it Strategy, Position Yourself to Win. I come from the school of thought, or I subscribe to that school of thought that thinks about strategy as positioning. That school of thought, I think, was mostly driven by the likes of Bruce Henderson of BCG in the 70s. And one of the things they used to do was to ask organizations to try to clarify their position relative to competitors in the market and understand which of their products they should focus attention on. So basically it's positioning, being able to say, I want to understand where I'm playing and play in the right place that makes the most sense for me, right? Yeah, so that was his school of thought, and I kind of like align with it. So I take that, I kind of align with it. I take that school of thought, and I want to essentially, how do we put it, make it make sense to small businesses operating in Africa. I want to make it make sense to them. I want to make it make sense for the clothing seller, like we're Ghana. I want to make it make sense to the person who is creating yogurt, right? I want to make it make sense to the person who is offering services to market women in Kantamanto, right? That's a place in Accra. So I just want to make those kind of tools and techniques and strategy concepts make sense to them. I, of course, obviously have to simplify them, but it's all about strategy, and it's the same concept that can be useful to somebody who is in his career. So if you've gotten to this point, you're probably interested in what I'm about to share. You're probably in the IT sector. You're probably looking for a way to position yourself rightly in the context of a career, in the context of your industry, so that you make the best progress, the most significant progress in the shortest amount of time. That is what the likes of BCG were trying to get organizations to do. And that is what I'm trying to get you to do also. Position yourself right. Position yourself properly. Now, this topic of strategy is very personal to me. The reason is that at some point during my journey as an enterprise architect at my last organization, I remember very well a conversation I had with my boss. And he made the statement that I was not thinking strategically enough, that I had done a lot of carryover of my way of working in operations, where I came from, into that realm of enterprise architecture. I needed to develop my capacity to think strategically. Now, one may say that that is the opinion of one person. It reminds me of a joke that a certain reverend made on one of our platforms. He says, he was talking in the context of Nigeria, which has about 250 million people. He says, if somebody calls you an idiot in Nigeria, that is the opinion of one person among 250 million. That's just by the way. But you may assume that, okay, this is my boss's opinion. Fine. But then, aside from, it's a very important opinion. So if your boss gives you that feedback, it's important to think about it and say, okay, is he right? Am I thinking strategically? Am I not thinking strategically? Am I making the right decisions? So that opinion is a very important opinion. Yes, even if it's 1 out of 30 million in Ghana, 1 billion in Africa and all that, but it's a very important opinion, and it's worth paying attention to. So he said, you're not thinking strategically enough. Now, that now begs the question. I've already told you that my school of thought on strategy is strategy as positioning. Discovering where you fit best, where your strengths will be most amplified in the industry, and focusing on that area, right? Taking high-level decisions that say, look, when we look at the competition, when we look at the range of products that we offer, when we look at our strengths, our competencies, this is the best place for us to be. Now, that is an organization. For an individual, for an employee, for a professional who is growing his career in IT, it's the same concept. When you look at all the people that are posting their profiles on LinkedIn, they are your competitors, especially if they're in the same industry. When you look at your colleagues, they are your competitors, right? Everybody's just, attempting to acquire the same thing. They're just looking at acquiring the same thing you're looking for. All right. So that said, so that's strategy, that positioning, that way of thinking that my boss was expecting from me is what drove that article. So that's what drove that this article. Many times when people say, I'm going for a strategy session, right? What they are saying is, we're going to plan what we're going to do next year. We're going to say, this is the list of projects, this is the list of programs, these are the people, this is what we'll do. It's a plan, it's not a strategy. And I think it is a fellow, a certain Harvard professor, tried to say a plan is not a strategy. And in saying that, he alluded to that concept of strategy as the position you take up in the market, particularly for a corporate. The same thing with someone who is trying to advance his career. What position have you taken up? Your strategy is not your career plan. Your strategy is not the steps you're taking to acquire a certain job. Your strategy is where you want to locate yourself so that you can be found there. Imagine you're so uniquely positioned that when someone is looking for you, they kind of know exactly where to find you. They find you in a certain place because you have deliberately positioned yourself there. So it's not just about a list of plans, it's about a positioning. There are a few definitions I'll just read out here. One of them is from Roger Martin. He says, an integrated set of choices that positions you on a playing field of your choice in a way that you can win. An integrated set of choices. Now, integrated, obviously, everybody knows what it means, right? They're all connected. They're all put together. You're making a series of choices. You're taking a series of decisions. They are all connected because you have a big picture in your mind as to where you want to locate yourself, right? And it says an integrated set of choices that positions you in a playing field of your choice in a way that you win. What determines those choices? So if you look at it really critically, the strategy, according to this definition from Roger Martin, is that integrated set of choices. But in effect, if you really think about it, the strategy is what drives the choices. So the strategy may even be thought of as some inexplicable, posture deep in your mind that maybe helps you craft your vision and all that now drives the choices you're making. So you're trying to make choices that align with that picture you see on the inside, that big picture you see on the inside, an integrated set of choices. And the purpose is to win. The purpose is to be successful. When the likes of Bruce Henderson and Bill Bain and so forth began to develop strategy tools, the purpose of some of those tools, all the tools like the SWOT, the business model canvas, the 5 Ps, the learning curve and all that. The purpose of all those tools was to, first of all, try to define the organization or the person. When I say define, try to discover who you really are. Discover yourself, then ask yourself, where do I have the most advantage? That is where I want to be positioned. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where do I have the most advantage? Now, when you interpret this in the context of someone who is pursuing a career, you may want to ask, what are the things that I learn best, fastest? Why don't I focus on them? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities that present themselves readily to me? Right? What are the threats in my space? How can I dissociate myself with locations, positionings that expose me too much to competition and threat, and isolate those areas where my strength will be amplified so that I can be easily discovered? Those are some of the questions you may want to ask as someone who is trying to advance his career. Another definition by Michael Porter, one of the most famous management strategists in the last 50 years. He said, choosing a unique and valuable position rooted in systems of activities that are much more difficult to match. So I think Michael Porter wrote the book Competitive Strategy, and he's a big expert on competition, a big expert. That is why he defines it this way: unique and valuable position rooted in systems of activities that are much more difficult to match. So he's saying that you live in this space of competition. You live in this space where there are so many people trying to get what you're trying to get, and you want to position yourself in such a way that by the time you combine your system of activities, all the things you know, all the things you have, all the things you are, it's difficult for somebody else to replicate your model. That is true for organizations. It's also true for small businesses. It is true for individuals pursuing a career. Is there a set of skills that you can hone that is difficult to match, that makes you stand out in the industry, that makes you stand out to the next recruiter? That is what it is: strategy, positioning. The next definition is from Gregor Hopp. Strategy is like setting dials on a complex circuit. This one is a bit intricate, a bit sophisticated. Setting dials on an intricate circuit. There is an outcome you're looking for in this piece of machinery, and then you tweak here, tweak here, tweak here, tweak here, tweak here, until you get that combination of tweakings that arrive at where you actually want to go. So that's how Gregor Hopp defines it. Michael D. Watkins says a business strategy is a set of guiding principles that, when communicated and adopted in the organization, generates a desired pattern of decision making. I think that last statement or clause or phrase is the high point. A desired pattern of decision making. So your strategy is not the decisions. Your strategy is what drives your decisions, the pattern of your decisions, right? Is what determines the next choice you make. Your strategy for your career is what determines the next choice you make in terms of the job that you take next, in terms of the training that you take. A lot of people, one of the things they have a problem with is deciding what to be trained on. So they simply take the trainings that their organization gives them. It's great to train on what your boss wants, but you have to have a strategy where you want to position yourself so that you're not exerting energy in all sorts of directions, right? So that's very important. It generates the set of guiding principles, and it generates the desired pattern of decision making for you, right? So these are the grandmasters. Yeah? These are the grandmasters of strategy, and they have said that strategy is about positioning. Strategy is about determining where you best fit in the industry and just being there so that you can be found, right? Now, I'm going to talk about something very interesting also, which is the concept of thinking versus doing. Now, many of before the concept of management consulting emerged, many thought leaders in the industry were of the opinion that if you want to do business, just do business. It's about getting something you're going to sell, product, service, and then making money, right? Why do you have to go through all this process of analyzing data, using tools and all that just to give me a set of reports that will tell me what I will be in the next 10 years? Many people didn't understand the whole concept at that time until the likes of Bruce Henderson, Bill Bain, Michael Porter, and so forth emerged on the scene and began to talk about these concepts. In the same way, many of us in IT and in Africa, I remember the context, are very much, hesitant about the fact that you have to think for the next 10 years. Many people are of the opinion that you don't know whether you're going to be here 10 years. You don't really know what will happen in the next 10 years. But you see, developing a strategy is not about the series of steps of a plan. So you must be willing to make adjustments as things emerge. But the decisions you take, the adjustments you make, The choices you make as disruptive events occur are based on the position you have taken, right? They are based on the position you've taken. That, okay, I want to be a management consultant, or I want to be a subject matter expert technically. There's a position you've taken. It determines your choices along the way. Disruptions happen, uncertainties occur, but that position remains and drives your choices. So it means that you are thinking ahead. You are thinking far ahead. You're putting together all the influencing factors, whether it is the organization you currently find yourself, the nation you currently find yourself, the opportunities that are emerging, the changes in the industry, and so forth. You are trying to articulate all these elements to ask yourself, how does this affect me, and where can I position myself so that I have an advantage? Because the whole point is for you to have an advantage, right? So the point here is that we must develop the culture and custom of thinking before doing, so that we're not rushing into opportunities. We're not just grabbing everything that comes. We are, even if we have to do a stepping stone, take an opportunity that is not really in our path, we know and are aware fully that it's a stepping stone to the actual destination that is for us in our careers. That was about thinking versus doing. Right. All right. In the article, I inserted a certain video where I talked about 4 phases of the moon, right? And the reason is that it comes from a place of experience where people have asked questions about what I'm doing exactly. Why? I mean, you've been a writer, you've been doing business consulting, strategy coaching, you're an enterprise architect, used to be a DBA and all that. Now, I'm not going to tell you that every decision I've made have been perfectly aligned with a strategic plan. But the truth is that these involvements of mine have helped hone certain skills in certain direction. And putting them all together helps me position myself rightly where I should be in the industry. You see, and that's why I mentioned earlier that being an enterprise architect could mean different things to different organizations. For some, they're looking for your soft skills more. For some, they are looking for your hard skills, right? Now, if I feel that my soft skills are easier to develop and hone, and more than my hard skills, especially as I get older, I could decide I want to position myself with organizations that are looking for more soft skills oriented of enterprise architects than hard skills, right? And you see, the 4 phases of the moon talks about the fact that we all have different dimensions to ourselves. So if somebody sees you writing a book about a village in Africa, and then they say, why are you writing a book about Africa? You should be writing a book about SQL Server, Oracle. I mean, your technical stuff that you do day to day. That may be true. But it may also be true that you are a combination of your soft side and your hard side. Your writing skills, your communication skills, your presentation skills, and your understanding of technology, which is a great merger if you're going to be an enterprise architect, right? So the point is, understand that there are different aspects of yourself, and don't deny yourself the privilege of exploring those various aspects of yourself simply because you're pursuing what someone else has defined as your career. Understand that you are a combination of many things. And you start asking yourself, how do I evaluate these many things? And create an intricate set of decisions that position me for success in my career. All right, now, positioning. There are many roles in IT or IT-related roles that when you look at them from afar, you think this doesn't make sense. What does a service desk person do? What does a demand manager do? What does a guy in continuous service interview do? To the pure techie, those roles may not make very much sense. But these are roles that bring together the enterprise: service management, risk management, data management, and so forth. There are certain roles in today's organizations that leverage your understanding of the big picture. And I can tell you for free that from my perspective, as you grow in your career, those are some of the roles you want to ask yourself, can I fit into them? Because you will get tired of coding. You will get tired of managing DBs. You will get tired of managing virtual machines. Most people do. As you get older, it's no longer, the thrill is no longer there. So you need to stretch your mind, your imagination, your capacities, your learnings to now fit into some of these other roles that will leverage your long experience in the IT sector. See things differently, look into other roles and see how they do what they do, so that you can help yourself be positioned for the next phase of your career, which may not be a hard technology role. All right. So what are we taking away from this? So what are we taking away from this? Now, the fact that you are actively exerting energy doesn't mean you are moving forward very nicely. There must be that thinking before doing. There must be that. If we come from an operational role, chances are that you think, if I'm not doing something all the time, I'm not working. But there are periods where you need to step back and think about what you're doing. In the context of a career, for example, think about where you're going, not just taking one job after the other. Think about where you're going. Think about where you actually want to go, not jumping about each opportunity. Now, a strategy, that's number 2, is not a set of activities you have to perform, not a plan, list. It's positioning. Asking yourself, where should I be in order to be found the right place that matches my strengths, that outsmarts my competitors, and that helps me put my best foot forward? Where should I be positioned? That's what strategy is. Some jobs require more thinking, number 3, but that doesn't make them inferior to those jobs that require more doing. And as you age, as you gain experience, your ability to think and contribute to decision making may be more valuable to your organization than your ability to deliver specific tasks. Thank you for staying with me this far. I hope you liked the video. I've talked about the fact that I have a work thoughts article newsletter in LinkedIn. Do subscribe, and do subscribe to this channel as well. I'll be doing this once in a while, coming up to share details of some of my experiences.